What's up, everybody? This is Dominic DeAngelo of OneTrueSportTV.com and FourHorsemenNetwork.com. We're live here today. It's not Magnum TA and Greg Gagne. It's just Magnum TA today. Magnum, how are you, man? It's good to see you on Tuesday. We're going to talk a little bit of pro wrestling, some Monday Night Raw, and get a lot of fan questions in here, hopefully. So, but how are you this week?
Man, I'm doing great in the starting to get in the holiday spirit a little bit and getting ready for the end of 2024, which I personally would be glad to see in the rearview window, and look forward to what's coming down the pike in 25.
Absolutely, and you think about the wrestling year overall, and it's been a wild ride, like in comparison. And we'll talk about that a little bit, and we were talking a little bit about that off air too, of how big of an impact that WrestleMania season felt last year, and what WWE can do to kind of rekindle that as they head to a Netflix deal, and as they prep for like a new era when it comes to WWE yet again. And so with these new TV deals, both for SmackDown and USA Network, and like I just said, Netflix. So it's going to be an intriguing year to talk about. And maybe too, at the end of this year, maybe our last show of the year, we can do kind of like a best of like award ceremony almost, where we give a wrestler of the year and a feud of the year and stuff like that. And
great idea. Yeah.
Might be pretty fun to do. So, but guys, if you have your questions, get them in. Be sure to ask away. We'll be happy to do it. It always helps if you use the super chat. It helps out the show and gets the word out about it. But be sure to like, subscribe, whether you're on OneTrueSportTV.com or you're on FourHorsemenNetwork.com. It's a double header today, by the way, too. So Magnum's leading off. He's the leadoff man. He's Juan Pierre back in the day for the Florida Marlins. And then we got a cleanup hitter and Arn Anderson coming up here at 6 p.m. So be sure to join them afterwards. But, hey, we're ready to kick it off and maybe hit a double, maybe even a walk-around home run or something like that. I don't know. All right. But, Magnum, did want to get your thoughts. You talked about that you saw Raw this past week. What was the biggest takeaway from the episode? And then we'll cover a little bit of we'll go into the dirt a little bit after the fact.
Well, I like them developing the storyline with CM Punk and Seth, and because I mean, CM Punk is such a huge player in the game, as is Seth, but because of the history, and then them kind of telling the backstory about Punk helping him out when he was getting started, and kind of looking after him. It sounded like to kind of keep him from being under a whole lot of scrutiny when he was just getting started in the WWE. So it seems like there was a lot of mutual professional respect, but Punk was quick to point out that Rollins had not achieved what he'd been able to achieve in his career, which I thought was kind of poetic, a little bit to kind of beat your own drum a little bit, but it was good to kind of bring all the story out, because Rollins shows such a passionate dislike and disdain that for people that don't know all the backstory and the history, without kind of laying that out and retelling that story, just the sheer dislike maybe doesn't make sense to everybody. So I think it's good that they've kind of retold that story and laid it out there for everybody to kind of see why there may be some professional jealousy, as well as some legitimate gripes about someone that walked away from from the team, basically, like CM Punk did when he went on this hiatus, but not just walked away, but pretty much ghosted the whole group of people that he'd been doing business with their day to day, and particularly Seth Rollins. So I think it all kind of made a lot more sense to me, and all those things were very logical. So it was a good way to start painting that picture.
A couple of questions on that. Do you think this is a feud you can build through to WrestleMania, and and maybe ultimately at some point they'll transition off like into their own respective feuds during that time. And do you also think this is a signification of a heel turn for Seth Rollins?
I don't know. I don't know what it's signifying or what it's pointing towards because I don't know where they're going. They've got to get, you know, I mean, Gunther carrying the belt, doing what he's done with all that is great, but they've got to get some mileage in some really serious feuds going on, in my estimation, with the titles, with the belts, whether that means, Cody re-upping with Roman, for the next dance without interference and, a more, an opportunity for maybe Cody to turn heel,
Mm-hmm.
whether it's that, I think they've used the vehicle to elevate Gunter, and it's time to get something going that's either going to turn him babyface and him getting a big back and forth with someone that gets that title away from him, in a chase or something. But right now they just aren't getting everything out of all their chess pieces.
Mm-hmm.
And,
What I did like about what you were saying with Punk and Seth is like, Punk basically called him a backup and he's the starter. And, the thing I like about pro wrestling is when they blur those lines, because if you do take a step back and you look at the bigger picture of pro wrestling as an entity, CM Punk is a bigger star than Seth Rollins. Like, he's just got the name cachet. He's got the big fan base. Now, Seth Rollins has the chant that comes out when he hits the crowd and stuff like that. And he's extremely talented in the ring and amazing. But I like that too, because that creates that, and whether it's fabricated or not, it creates that kind of tension between one another that can really set some fun and engaging stuff up on, and sets both guys up to speak with further conviction about how they feel maybe about one another. So
I think Seth needs that rejuvenation because he did so much to build Cody up to get Cody ready for Roman. I mean,
yes,
he did the favor, and then the favor. I mean, he was just the ultimate, team player to not only get him ready, but then also be an integral part of, the great big craziness that all took place that was WrestleMania, that saw Cody come out with a win, but Seth was certainly an assist in making that a world class event. So Seth's talent can't be argued, but to CM Punk's credit in pointing it out, I mean, CM Punk elevated himself to a level that was a la The Rock, a la Stone Cold Steve Austin, John Cena. He was in those sentences and in that genre, which is a level above. And maybe this can, at this stage in Seth's career, bring him up yet another notch, because he certainly, isn't as far as his work, his interview, all that, man, he's all that. He just needs to be in some strong angle, like back when they gave him the mega push, and he was going out there doing 10 minutes of mic time and built the whole company around him. And then he went out there and blew his leg out, and was gone and came back. But he kept recreating himself and exhibiting just a masterful amount of skill and talent, not only in the ring, but his mic skills and his timing is just totally, impeccable. So, I'd love to see that, that game come up. I mean, he's still, to me, it should be he should be in that world champion mix somewhere. Yeah, I don't know what their plans are with Randy. I don't know what, they still got all these great big bad ball players sitting in the bullpen that we don't know how they're going to use them.
Yeah, absolutely. What was neat too is that exchange that Seth Rollins and Sami Zayn had And Sammy mentioned it. He's like, "You're reminding me of Drew McIntyre when it comes to all this stuff." And you look at it, and yeah, they set that up really nicely because Seth is becoming obsessed to almost to a level that Drew McIntyre was with CM Punk, and it's kind of furthering that, but in turn, it's also furthering showing. And then Sammy and Seth kind of ended things amicably, but Seth's going to go on his own route, and it seems like obviously Sammy's has a beef now with Drew McIntyre. And what do you think of that feud going on? Do you think that that's something that can be viable and something that's worthwhile?
I think Sammy's, again, another guy with so much talent that can go with the right guy in any feud. He's a big player, and he's gonna bring it home. I'm curious to see some twists and turns. It has been maybe a little too predictable for the last so many months, and it's not that it's stale. It's not that like the women's division is still exciting, and got all kinds of things going on there. Dom's interaction and back and forth in that mix has made that whole thing special. But it's like they've got this A team, but you're still seeing it's still like the A team that you see week in, week out. And you see them 52 weeks a year. And without mixing some little catalyst up in it to stir the pot or get everybody off base. But I mean, as much as I like to see Brock Lesnar back, it's still it's still just taking, pulling, like I said, reaching out, pulling in this, great player and, letting him go in there and do his thing. We just need some new blood that's hungry and can get in there and just change the chemistry up a little bit. To me is the way I see it. Because as a fan, it's not that the matches aren't good. It's just, who you're out there watching and do it and what's going to capture your imagination again. And I think it's going to take something pretty radical to turn this thing into the interest game that they were able to create before WrestleMania. And frankly, though it all went 180 degrees out of what they thought, it's going to be really hard to recapture that input of The Rock and the mega superstar he is, and his hand and all that, even though they completely, called an audible and changed everything around at the last minute and made some really magical stuff out of it. Yeah, I don't know what will equal that kind of impact. Even with John Cena doing the John Cena last hurrah tour, that is still not the same thing.
Do you think the fact that they're in Las Vegas for WrestleMania season kind of helps elevate it, though? I mean, Philly's obviously a big city and stuff like that, but Vegas has the glitz, the glam, and then you got the UFC there, so that's under the umbrella of the TKO and just a lot of different stuff coming on. Do you think that kind of will help perpetuate? I agree with you, though. I think they do need something to give it a little bit more bite than because it was so raised up to such a high level, it being like a significant number in WrestleMania 40, and then you have The Rock being in the mix and really going all in as a character, building towards a story, for the season. So, but yeah, what do you think about it just being in Vegas, and is that elevate the stakes for you, think?
It does, and of course, they've got the UFC, connection there, and all the stuff with that training center there too. There's got to be something outside the box, outside the norm, outside of what we as fans and halfway smart people can predict, because it can't be predictable. Mm-hmm. It's got to be something happen unpredictable. Look like something that looks like I mean, as goofy as all of it was, I mean, the ups and downs with McMahon going out this year. I mean, they've had real dramas, real things happen. People like, man, well, some are cheering and glad, the dinosaur's out. Some are going, well, it had a little different feel when he was still had his, touch on it, and so I mean, it's bringing out a host of different uh, armchair quarterback guessing the woulda, shoulda, couldas, what, why, maybe they made some mistakes, and um, I firmly believe Hunter and that whole creative team has got something up their sleeve major. They're probably chomping at the bit and want to pull a trigger that they just can't pull because they have a reason and a strategy. And I just have to think the month of January is going to explode their business somehow. Something really major is going to take place. Don't know what it is. Excited to watch like everybody else, but they need something.
Well, from what I've been able to gather, I hear some things are very hush hush when it comes to some things. So I think you're on point with that, Magnum. So it should be, yeah. I think they gotta have something in their holster where it's just like, oh, they know this is such a big new time for them. And plus, yeah, being in Vegas and stuff like that, they're gonna really elevate the game to make sure that everything is all on point and run on 10 cylinders. Because I think there was some reports that The Rock is not tentatively planned right now for WrestleMania. I kind of don't necessarily subscribe to that. I think him being on the board of directors and what the value of having him there after last year, he's going to be, I think he's going to play a part in this for sure once the time comes, because The Rock will do what he's going to want to do, right? I mean,
well, you would think, but somebody of that stature and that many obligations and that many projects going on and things. I mean, frankly, I find it remarkable that he's had the freedom to do the things that he has. Because I can imagine a studio who's got millions of dollars invested in various projects that he's part of, just cringes at the thought of something going wrong and him being, out or not be able to make the shoot dates or whatever, because I mean, he's basically a walking billion-dollar franchise, but it's very pressuresome because it's not he doesn't own a Fortune 500 company. He is the Fortune 500 company.
yeah
It's true. And that's a little scary in that you're and there's nothing one dimensional about him, but there is only one of him. So they've got to somebody's got to be a little bit protective of that, I would think, and how you go about using that asset.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, time will tell for sure. But I think The Rock has a little bit of carte blanche with him when it comes to a lot of what he wants to do and what he's capable of doing. I think, too, him going away from Hollywood and going back into the realm of WWE and pro wrestling, I think kind of in turn, like really elevates him to a level that makes him all around. Like, because I think him coming back, the fans can show appreciation for him coming back, whether he's in a heel role or a babyface role. And I think that just elevates his game when he goes back to Hollywood, I think sometimes. So it'll be interesting to see what they kind of do with him moving forward. But do want to give shout out to some folks in the chat, ATF Media. We got Triple E here. We got CB here. We got Eddie Prather here. Little Patty's in the house. We got Instagram, a wrestling historian. Yeah, guys, if you haven't yet, be sure to like the video, whatever channel you're on, but be sure to share and subscribe and get the word out. CG Artiste, I see you in the chat as well, too, so thank you. I am starring some questions, so feel free to get some in and use the super chat if you really want to get your champs in here, so shout out to him as well. You mentioned Gunther earlier on, Magnum, and they kicked Raw off with him and Finn Balor. Did you get to see that promo segment? And Gunther was actually quite the babyface in that.
Yeah, and he's quickly being pulled in that level of perception because he doesn't lie, he doesn't cheat, he doesn't do cowardly things there's really nothing he does besides being, can be arrogant that makes you, want to dislike him. And he's not even in his arrogance. It's usually something that he's saying that's pretty profound because because he delivers some really, key shots at people. I think it would be such a minute shift, just to change his lane, very, very, very easily because he's just so capable, all the way around. But so yeah, I did see that, and I like the fact that they've got, they're keeping everybody in the mix. So like, it's not just one person vying for that championship. Multiple people want to have it kind of in their sights, but Gunter he can point out somebody's shortcomings without making them look like they're not a contender, and it's kind of a unique ability he has to communicate, different. I'm trying to think of some of the past who had his persona, but honestly, he's done something that's so unique. That's really, it's not a redo of somebody. He's just made Gunter into a very credible, real, believable guy that, just that sheer persona can't help but make him a favorite at some point in time.
Yeah. Do you think? I mean, I was almost thinking when they did that, I'm like, okay, he's going to be the baby face in this role, building up to Saturday night's main event, which we'll preview here in a little bit. But I think afterwards, I would assume, and obviously I don't know, but I would think that they would pivot him back to being a heel. But because you always see that sometimes in the past when they ultimately turn somebody, there's almost a little tease starting off, which like they show the baby face potential of somebody like that, and then it gets the fans wanting, oh, I do want to see Gunther turn baby face at some point. Do you think there's more mileage in him being a heel than in comparison to turning him a baby face, say at this point in time?
I think he's so good it doesn't really matter, to be honest. Like somebody like Braun Breaker,
mm-hmm.
You have to be more thoughtful of, how you use that personality,
Mm-hmm.
and because he's explosive, dynamic, and reminds me, a lot of his his dad and his uncle. When they started out, they were explosive and dynamic and all these things, but it took them years, to get things polished to be able to have the whole package. But if you protected, how you use them, they were big box office, and he's a lot in that kind of in that same role, and whereas Gunter is just, he's like watching an old season pro, and I'm sure. I mean, he's obviously been working for years, but he reminds you of a 20-year veteran.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
Yeah. He's just so smooth, and there's no, I've never seen him in any situation in the ring, even when he was in there with Cody, and even the way Cody went over, it still didn't take anything away. That the finish was so just well thought out, like an old Pat Patterson finish or something. Man, it was brilliant, and where he basically locked himself in putting Cody in a hold when Cody did that flip back over when he had him in the sleeper. He had his own hands locked and couldn't let go.
Yeah.
He was like a Chinese finger. He trapped himself.
Mm-hmm.
And but it did, the show of respect and things that he will do along with that persona. He's just not a nasty heel. He's not a Tully Blanchard who was just nasty. You wanted to kick his ass kind of heel, no matter who you were.
Absolutely.
And so that, that opens up just countless possibilities here.
Yeah, Gunther's almost got that Nick Bockwinkel heelishness to him, where he's like condescending and kind of wiser almost, but still kind of that legitimate ass kicker too. You have, I feel he's got a lot of
And
that.
I was thinking that same comparison earlier too. But the thing that's even better yet is that he's got that raw, hard hitting Johnny Valentine, making you believe, kind of in ring motion, that what he does is very simplistic for the most part. It's not high energy, work yourself into a frenzy doing spots. It's just solid, thought out, mechanical. I guess how he got the name the Ring General, because I'm sure he's thought about the psychology of wrestling, 24/7 for the past umpteen years, bringing himself to where he did. And I think he's just a great story, because when you looked at him before he dropped all the weight, he was obviously a good performer even when he was 60, 70 pounds bigger. But he's just like a lean racehorse, raw bone, classic European looking kind of guy now, that all the way back, odes to Fritz von Erich and just different guys that had that look, and weren't great big muscled up guys, but they looked like they had their fists were concrete blocks. And when they hit you, it hurt.
Yeah.
In which I could argue, I'm sure it probably does, because I've seen the aftermath of the guys that've been in the ring with him. And he certainly knows how to lay it in.
How about that? Man, yeah, he's got that legitimacy to him. And he doesn't have the physique of what you would think of your typical pro wrestler, but he's got that.
Well, even his protege,
the Kaiser.
Yeah. I mean, he's more fit looking and athletic looking and tone wise, but Gunter is just it takes you back to the day of the prize fighters and the Jack Dempseys and the guys that you just really believe could take your head off, and like they could. So I'm a fan.
Yeah, me too. Big time. He changes the game, I think, in a lot of ways of how pro wrestling is perceived. And it's just a refreshing callback to what wrestling was too, I think, is him just being there.
And
CB,
the other thing from last night, before I forget.
Yeah.
I was so glad to see how well that tag match was done with Uncle Howdy and the whole flipping cast of thousands it seemed like were involved in that thing. But that was as well done a segment and match with that many different guys, and the finish and the way they did the whole thing with Paul Ellering in the end of it, and the powder and they just brought all the elements together. And there was a lot of big men in that ring at one time.
Oh yeah, there was. That's what I liked, Magnum, is so, and I said this on my other show too, Rumor and Innuendo, that I was yesterday I was saying this to preview Raw. I was like, well, I hope they don't job out Final Testament right now to Wyatt 6, because I think there's a lot more legs you can have with these two factions with one another. And thankfully they didn't. They had Karrion Kross pin Uncle Howdy. And then I was also saying, and they also need to get Paul Ellering more involved. And maybe even have him be a voice, because he's a great promo and everything like that. And sure enough, they had him throw the salt to the eyes. And, we're off to the races now with this. I really liked it too, Magnum. I thought it was great.
No, it was just well produced, well thought out. Nobody looked like they were lost at any time. And with that much going on and that many people, that would be very easy to do. Really. That is a lot going on with a lot of, like I said, big fellas. And the whole thing was really, really good. Really well done. I'm proud of all of them, because I know that you've got a mixed match of folks there that don't have years of experience working with each other. So it was cool.
Yeah, it was very, very cool. Do you see a higher ceiling too with Final Testament overall? Like, do you think there's much more you can do with them as a faction and continue to build them and make them?
I think the imagination is only limited to someone's imagination. I think those guys are as credible as anybody you could want to see in the ring, what they can do. And now they've shown their timing. You can lay out a game plan for them and they can execute. So when you mix the girl in with who's like, she's got a whole nother little nuance and act. And I mean, she is a value add into the deal and isn't just, it isn't just somebody there just because.
Yeah,
I mean, she knows how to work it and can work herself if we're given the opportunity. So, and oh my goodness. So who's the girl that had all the face paint on the,
Nikki Cross?
Nikki Cross that was one of the most terrifying looking things. If it was a dark night and I saw that coming down the sidewalk, I don't know what would happen. I might just go on up. That might take me out because she was the scariest looking creature when she looked back over her shoulder and she was there. It was like something out of a horror movie.
100%. I think she's the scariest looking persona that WWE's ever had. That's more than The Fiend. I think it's more than anybody that they've done. They did a really good job with her.
Yeah, and she embraces it. She jumps up on, comes off the top. She'll sacrifice her body to the wind. She doesn't care. And she is just, whew. She's like Daglin, the Exorcist on steroids.
Right.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Oh man. Yeah, that was great stuff. Also wanted to mention, man, you talk about Dom Mysterio gets all that kind of heat. Well, I think the New Day got some new kind of heat too, big time. Holy smokes, that was really something right there, Magnum. What did you think of all that and the execution of building New Day?
I think they're like you said, you blur the lines of reality, and they're doing, and it's so funny because you got three men of color doing something to each other that could never happen outside of that group of people, right? So this brotherhood that they had, allows them to really, flip the script and be absolutely horrendous, about something that was a shoot. So that when you take somebody that broke their neck through no fault of their own, and to his testimony, what a flipping beast of a specimen he is. I mean, he still looks like $1 million, but the things that they threw out there are just brutal. Just literally brutal. I'm glad they interjected Cody into the mix of that, and the world is just wanting to like biff them in the back of the head for turning on Big E like that. So again, they're getting things where they can get under people's skins and get that story kind of going, and you can definitely follow it. Who you don't have to wonder who doesn't like who in the WWE. Is Ray Charles could see where the problems are. Who doesn't like who?
There's the clear distinction for sure. Definitely.
Yeah. So yeah, I'm like I said, they really vested the time in telling, not just having people talk for the sake of talking, but really setting the stage for some things to come. So, kudos to them for, investing in the story, because that's what gets people intrigued to want to see the contest.
Yeah, well, it definitely. And yeah, it gets you excited too for Saturday night's main event. We had Sami Zayn reveal that he'll be facing Drew McIntyre at Saturday night's main event. And then we also have just a stacked card when it comes to it. We got Cody versus Kevin Owens. We got Liv Morgan taking on Io Sky. Oh my gosh. The triple threat match. Gunther, Damian Priest, and Finn Balor are also on the card. It should be a very exciting thing. I love I'm a sucker for nostalgia. I think the millennial generation is always a sucker for nostalgia. So I think it's going to be a really, really good card. Are you pretty? Well, how do you feel about? We know Greg's thoughts on Jesse Ventura, but I kind of wanted to get your thoughts on Jesse Ventura. What do you think of him as a persona and a character?
I think he's a flipping genius, is what I think he is. I worked with him in WCW. I helped negotiate his contract to get him in and get him on air, and he's just one of the most brilliant, creative people you could ever want to be around. And that air about him is not something he has to try to do. I mean, that's Jesse. And it's something a skill. So I mean, I'm really looking forward to seeing him. I guarantee you, if they put him in the right light with the headpiece on and the whole deal, that he will pick right up where he left off. It'd be like just flashing back in time. I mean, he is just that good. So yeah, I think that's really cool. I mean, Greg called it. We called it on here that he was going to be part of that thing, and well, should he be?
Yeah, absolutely. It's gonna be a real fun time. Yes, I can only imagine the comments he'll make probably towards Cody and Dusty and stuff like that during that match. He'll have some stuff that he can have some fun with. So I wonder too if he'll be on the call for the whole show, or if they'll just pick and choose the moments where he's there. It'll be interesting to see how they lay that out, I think.
Nothing would surprise me. I know they'll have to have a choker chain on him, or he'll be like picking up the cell phone and calling Vince.
Oh yeah, right.
He'll get one last shot in.
That's it. Yeah, one last shot at it, but that definitely, you could definitely see that happening.
Yeah.
Yeah, that it's going to be a blast, Magnum, on NBC at Saturday at 8 p.m. What do you think's going to happen? Do you think anything unexpected will happen? You were talking about how they have to really maybe change the game up a little bit to hype things up for WrestleMania. Is Kevin Owens taking on Cody Rhodes for that WWE Championship? You would think Cody would win it, but if they really wanted to shake things up, could you put the title on Kevin Owens right now and tell a good story that way?
Oh, you could tell an amazing story that way. Are the merchandising people going to let that happen? Probably not.
That's a great point. Yep.
I mean, it's all at the end of the day about money and the whole deal. But if they don't do something, if that's just a really good show and it's just really entertaining, and they don't do something, they will have shot themselves in the foot, I think.
Yeah.
Because then it'll be, oh well, it's just nostalgic, blah 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 blah. So they should have millions of eyes on. I can't even imagine the viewership something like that has a potential to draw. It's got to be insane. I mean, how many years has it been since?
Oh man, that's a good question. I'm trying to think if they did, like, they reprised it at all throughout the years. I think maybe once or twice, maybe, but it's been a long, long time. If you're really going back, like probably like 30 something years ago, if that longer, not longer, right?
I think you're right. So again, every time you have that many eyes on, you got a chance. You got a chance to do something. Yeah, I mean, it's not just it's safe and we just got these people. If you want to get them, let them walk out there talking about the where are they going or what are they doing? I can't believe they did that. You got to have one moment during that show where they just go, holy crap! I cannot believe they just did that.
Right. Another match too we'll have on top is we'll be crowning an inaugural Women's United States champion. It's going to be either Bayley or Chelsea Green going up against Mishin or Tiffany Stratton. So it'll be very cool to see what they do with that. I could see it going on either Chelsea Green or Tiffany Stratton. Bayley too, but I would think maybe more so Chelsea Green's been really cultivating a good kind of underground fan base in certain ways that might help her out a little bit. I don't know though.
It would be it would definitely boost Chelsea, but my money's on Tiffany
Yeah.
for the simple fact to continue the story and I mean, because they could make that women's U.S. title very a la what the U.S. title was in the NWA, and make it really shine and truly where that that person really is like the next in line for the world title, and everybody's looking at Tiffany as a future world champion. That's why they did the Money in the Bank stuff and all the things they've done. So, logically, that she would be the one that I would probably give the nod to, just to bring her up even more because her momentum's good. Her she's as good on camera as any new girl from the last 20 years.
Hat tip to Greg for that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I mean, and somebody had to give her a chance. But really, she needs to tip her own hat because you're not successful at all the things that she was successful at prior to wrestling, and then put your focus on that, and I mean, literally like a rocket to the top. She didn't take baby steps. She just started hurtling,
Right.
and has continued to improve her product, month in and month out. So they really can't go wrong. That women's side is just so strong. There's
Isn't it?
so many girls there that are just real. I mean, really have the whole package. It's not like, I thought Liv Morgan in the beginning. I didn't really I didn't know all the potential that she really had. But for someone that just has a look and kind of looks like that, that it girl kind of deal, but can do everything she does with that, it looks so just determined and precise that she's just a different breed. I mean, she really is not like any. I can't even point to anybody in going back in time that worked like she works and just has kind of got that look. Because I mean, there's been Trish, obviously, megastar, Hall of Famer, unbelievable look, part of the Attitude Era and all those things. But Trish's work compared to Liv's in terms of that credibility and timing and believability are two different levels. I mean, they've taken it up, the game up to a whole different level of expectation.
Yeah, she definitely has. And I think you make a great point too, is like she fits right into that mold of what builds to and adds to that women's division. And like what she's doing with Judgment Day and Dom and, just the manipulation, kind of like JR's Jezebel thing. She really fits that to a T at the time. And I think is doing a really great job with it. Yeah.
I agree.
So no, the women's division is stacked. And I mean, like, and when I get a chance to take a gander at the gals down in NXT, it's like, man, they have such a plethora of talent on that side of the wrestling ring. It's going to be really cool to see how that all pans out. But yeah, Tiffany's definitely could be a surefire bet for that the inaugural championship. I think that would be a great move too. So really, really good stuff. All right, we'll take a couple of fan questions here before we close on out. Start a few. So let's see where we're going to go here. We will start with, here's a good one. Eddie Prather. Question for Dom and Magnum. What do you think of the potential of Obafemi? Have you seen anything of Obafemi, Magnum? What he's, that presence down in NXT? Holy smokes. I'll have to send you a link to him because, man, he is going to be big time star, figuratively and literally. He was the North American champion. He just lost to Tony DeAngelo down there a little bit ago, the North American championship. But he's got like a look, a presence, a charisma. He's definitely somebody to keep tabs on for sure. So
I'll check him out.
Yeah, definitely. He's got the pedigree for sure. Yeah. So good question, Eddie. But I'm with you. I think he's got a lot of potential. week, Arn on his show was asked about working with Kamala. Did you ever work with Kamala? Sweet Cherry Bill wants to know.
Oh my goodness, yeah, yeah. This little thing called the Great American Bash, the first one,
Oh, yeah.
the first one we did with here at the Memorial Stadium in Charlotte. I worked with Kamala in I think we had about 19,000 people out there, outdoor setting, and he was the way he could move for somebody his size was phenomenal. And so obviously I was working with him on his way kind of out of Mid-South and out of world class on his way to go up to, work for the WWE. And it was so funny because, of course, Dusty, had envisioned what, he wanted to happen. And Skandar Akbar was Kamala's manager at the time. And so they didn't want to do the favor right in the middle with the belly to belly. So because he didn't want to mess up his momentum what he was doing or what he was about to do. So Dusty said, "Oh, that's okay, baby. We do a DQ and da da da." And he said, "But after it's all over with, do you mind if we just like do this?" So we had this match, and it was solid, it was believable, and we get the DQ part in, but my hand has never been raised yet, and we have an aftermath where I throw him in on a belly to belly suplex, and so the pop on the end of it, we got everything that Dusty wanted to take place in it, and as far as in the record books, he didn't have to look like he did the favor right in the middle of the ring, 1, 2, 3, but it all had the same effect. So it was pretty funny at the end of the day. I only had that happen a few times, but I always remember that. Matter of fact, he and I years later were out to eat somewhere up in Baltimore or something. We were laughing about that story. It was kind of funny.
Arn was talking about him and working with him, and right so early on, like in Mid-South, where Bill Watts gave him the opportunity, gave Arn the opportunity, saying, "Hey, you're going to be an underneath guy." And sure enough, he had to work against Kamala, and he talked about how it was working against him, and it was a testament to what you just said. It's like he was great in the ring and how fast he could move and everything like that. And like when he got splashed, he's like, "Oh, I felt it." But I wouldn't say that it was like, devastating or anything like that, because Kamala knew what he was doing in the ring. So it's
yeah. I mean, yeah. I mean, he could jump up in the air and like do the splits in the air and touch, his feet with both hands. And I mean, he's 360, 380 pounds or something. I mean, he's something crazy size, but he was, I mean, that gimmick was, absolutely perfect for him. Yeah, that's where I met Arn. Yeah, I met Arn when I think I was a North American champion or something, and he was just coming in doing, as the enhancement guys on the show, and then we end up, in working for the Crockett's together, and part of things that were beyond epic.
Man, yes, 100% on that. You ain't lying there. All right, let's take a couple more questions. Instagram, a wrestling historian, says, "What was the trick to keeping Tully Blanchard's eye safe in the I Quit match finish? Thanks in advance."
There was no trick. I just didn't kill him. I mean, I mean, I know that I had my left hand, like on his head, and really the edge of that stake was resting on my own hand.
Yeah.
And it wasn't anything. I mean, we didn't know that was going to be the gimmick. I mean, we didn't know what we were going to have. That thing was so not planned to have turned out as absolutely, horrifying looking as it did. And were it not for the fact that, Baby Doll threw the chair twice. She threw it the first time and didn't make it.
Oh,
because she's standing on the floor, and that cage is up there.
Right.
And it wasn't a gimmick chair or anything. She was just looks on the ring, and they're supposed to find something, and she hit that thing, and it made it within about a foot and a half, 2 feet, and came back down and hit the floor. And she tells the story. She said, "How do you tell he was going to kill me if I didn't?" And she said that next time she threw it more, she cleared it, like a pole vaulter, and when the thing hit, it actually broke in the ring, and it had a hinge, which revealed this big, just like some of you drive through a vampire's heart or something, and so it worked out good. But we had both used different gimmicks, throughout, our careers and our different matches we did together. So it was no different than using anything. You just you could have your hand right there, like you're just holding his head still, and not even be touching him, and it looked like you're gouging his eyeball out.
Right, yeah, yeah. It's the smoke and mirrors trick of it all.
Yeah.
Who would you say is your most? I won't say maybe your favorite opponent, but maybe your most like complimentary opponent in the ring. Who meshed with you the best? Would you say?
I would say probably Tully.
Yeah.
Because though I had memorable feuds with with Flair, and of course the best of seven with Nikita,
Mm-hmm.
and with Wahoo McDaniels, and Butch Reed, Mr. Wrestling 2, all those singles deals. But Tully was like 20 pounds lighter than me, and was so in shape that he could just go at a pace that was almost inhuman. And to be able to uh, you know stay with him as he was feeding you, and taking bumps and flying, and even during the heat and out on the floor and bending it out, he was just the perfect the perfect partner, size wise and everything else, because I could manhandle him pretty easily, just from a size perspective. I remember in the I Quit match, I picked him up for a press slam, and I swear I felt like I picked up a 50-pound sack of potatoes. It didn't feel any heavier than that. I mean, it's just like, he went up, and I threw him up, and honestly, I could have thrown him probably up over top the edge of the cage. He went up so easy, and he's just this amazing athlete that, and with just unbelievable timing, and it still amazes me to this day that what he and I had was his only real singles spotlight of what he could do as a singles. And predominantly he's known for his tag matches with Arn and the Four Horsemen, and all those things. But had he stayed in that persona and with Baby Doll and that deal, he would have been one of the most amazing world champions of all flipping time, because people wanted to kill him. I mean, just absolutely, and believe and he was in their eyes, they're thinking, well, he's out there with Magnum, and Magnum's killed him. I could probably beat him up. Well, no, Tully was 220, tough as flipping nails, and could go. And they would, but you've got to be able to think that about a heel, to hate him, to actually think, oh, if I can get my hands on him, you wouldn't think of that about the Road Warriors. You wouldn't say, oh, I want to get my hands on
I
him.
can take those guys.
No, I just do not. Just shoot me. But he had that thing, and so it just really, it still kind of baffles me that he never got the run that he could have had, in my mind, because his interviews, like I said, you just wanted to.
Such an ultimate like chicken shit heel, like shit stir kind of guy that did like you don't get too many anymore.
He was so good that Baby Doll to this day thinks we hated each other. We were trying to kill each other. She was so close to us, watch us work. She thought we were just absolutely hammering each other, trying to kill each other. And I still can't get it through her head that, were we trying? he wouldn't have lasted 30 seconds, and somebody had been in dire shape. As horrendous as that looked, it could have been a lot worse.
Could have been a lot worse, right?
Yeah.
Holy smokes. Yeah, that's a great one. Oh man, yeah. You got to think you two are synonymous with one another in a lot of ways. So all right, we'll take two more here. Wanted to see Stamps asked this. Magnum, what are your thoughts on Ray Phoenix, what he said online, and if you heard about it? Have you heard about this, the Ray Phoenix comment?
So I've got bits and pieces. So is he saying that he was injured or something, and there is something, the way it was handled was less than professional? And
yeah, you kind of have it down for the most part, I would say. Yeah, so he was hurt for a good amount of time in AEW, and he happened. So the first tweet he made was on December 7th, so 3 days ago. He says, "No one stays in a place where they received inhumane treatment." And then he left it at that. And so that got a lot of buzz. It got like 23,000 likes. So much it went pretty viral for wrestling Twitter. And then 2 days on December 9th, 2 days later, he said, "I needed a doctor and you ignored me for months," and just left it at that. Nothing else. Don't know how much of those comments kind of get lost in translation when it comes to like what he wants to say, because inhumane's a little harsh to say, but
well, if you're the one that's hurt and you're not getting the support that for the place that you were serving at the time, then it could probably seem pretty inhumane.
Sure, yeah.
But there's always multiple sides of the story, and as everybody is brutally aware, we're not huge fans of the whole genre, aside from the fact we're thankful that there is one, there is a plan B for all the people gainfully employed there. I'm very thankful for that. But nothing, you want to jump and think the worst because something about the operation pisses you off. But I can't imagine Tony Khan's group purposefully, doing something to leave somebody hanging out there suffering, or whatever, and not being able to make that right. See, it would have to have the flavor to me to be some massive miscommunicated thing that went south and kind of took a life of its own.
That's kind of where I'm leaning at too, because there's part of the thing too. I think he's upset that he's kind of being froze out of leaving the company because of their tacking on his injury time that he had off, so onto his contract. So he's just kind of hanging in purgatory right now when it comes to what he can do as a wrestler right now, and that's nothing unless they put him on a television. Now,
is his partner free?
I think Penta's either very close to being free or is free at this point. So
he's the one. He is the one that got a major run with somebody in his back pocket, because he's one of the most entertaining somebody that works that stylization. Nobody's got better timing than him.
No, you're 100% right on that. And the look and the attitude he brings, it's like, that's what's so head scratching about like the time in AEW is like, man, you could have made him such a big star, like marketed the masks to sell, done everything like that, and they did not do anything. Like they made them the two tag team champions at one point, but other than that, that was it. And it wasn't for a long run that they were that. And to follow up, it says, I'm reading something, Pro Wrestling Finesse, not very, I've never heard of this site, but they say Penta is officially a free agent. He's no longer in the AEW roster page. So the assumption will be he's definitely on his way to WWE, I would think. So
yeah, I hope so. I mean, yeah, he will make things exciting.
Yes.
Quickly.
Yes. You know what, Magnum? He's somebody you could insert too on the way to WrestleMania season to kind of shake things up and shock the system a little bit if you really want to.
You would have to argue, aside from Rey Mysterio, that there's no masked man in the last 10 years that's in that same bubble and space of what as far as a multi-dimensional. I'm not talking about just flip flops and flies. I'm saying he is a showman, but understands the psychology just so well.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, yeah. I mean, if you could sprinkle some of that on Ricochet, daggone it, man. If they could just, but they haven't been able to do it for anybody else. So why would we think they're gonna do it there? But you can't help but wish.
That's the head scratching thing too, is like, so they got Ricochet. He's such a fresh, hot talent. There's so much potential you can really use with him and have him do what he wasn't necessarily maybe in the realm of doing in WWE when it came to his athleticism and skill set. But they've been jobbing him out and they haven't been using him like on a weekly basis. He's a factor, but he's not that big of a factor. And he just feels like another guy on the roster at this point in time. It's very
and to that point, they got a whole bunch of guys that can do just that stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And if you got a whole army of them, then to make yourself unique, your personality's got to be the thing to take you to that other level.
Mm-hmm.
And that and Ray knew that. Rey Mysterio knew that early on. He learned how to connect to the people and to talk and get them to buy into whatever he was doing. And he was the giant killer. And gosh, I mean, I watched somebody was posting something about Lucha Underground.
Yeah.
And show, and they were talking about people that like that was their peak, and he was Prince Puma.
Yep.
Ricochet was Prince Puma on that show, and man, he stood out even under the mask. I mean, there was, I mean, I watched him and Rey Mysterio work on that show, and it was flipping, it was amazing. And and that little quirky, cult almost ish type show, but there was people that created magic on that show that haven't been able to figure out how to create it elsewhere. Tyra Valkyrie.
Yeah. Huh.
I mean, you couldn't keep your eyes off her on that show, and I mean, and she just had this look, this vibe, this thing. Now she's recreating it now. If you watch, but she's not getting the airtime on the main event to be able to see it.
It's so upsetting because I love her a lot. I think she's one of the top women wrestlers like out there, really, as a persona and like capability and stuff.
100%.
She just float. They don't use her at all in AEW. I sometimes forget she's on the AEW roster. It's so aggravating. It's so aggravating. So, oh man.
So anyway, that's the same story, different day. But I will follow the drama with the luchadors and see where they end up and what ends up happening there. Because again, both those guys are talented, but Penta, he's
top notch
stuff.
Mm-hmm. Magnum, did you want to say anything? Any updates on Powertown you want to give, or anything in that regard when it comes to?
We're kind of like the WWE with Netflix. We're biting our tongue and hanging on and trying to get into the new year. The Myers and Cardona tag team, or not tag team, but duo box that we did is actually about to hit the waters from China and head this way, followed by Remco's, our first run of Remco's. And, we've got product line basically hitting for the first 4 months of the year. But we've got what will be our biggest group that we have done thus far coming up to be announced sometime in January. And we're well into all the development work and all that kind of things. But we're just waiting to announce because we want to put some product in some people's hands and let them see some more of our new stuff before we unveil the next generation of what we're doing.
Well, it's exciting stuff. Love what's on the forefront for Powertown from the figure series line, but then you also, like you mentioned, the Remco figures and the Galoob figures I'm very excited for too. So should be a lot of fun for wrestling collectors and everything like that on the forefront. So be sure to go to powertownwrestling.com, bookmark that page, and keep your eyes peeled for what's to come here. As far as anything else goes, be sure to shop a little Magnum TA stuff. We got a whole lot of good merch on OneTrueSport.com for Magnum TA. We got the zip-up hoodie, the mug. We got a great hat on there. We got some T-shirts. Lots of quality stuff when it comes to Magnum and what he's been all about. So you can get some merch from the boss. So go to OneTrueSport.com. You can also do the same with Greg Gagne, who's we missed today. We get the mug, the Heart of a Champion, the High Flyer hoodie, the zip hoodie, and some T-shirts as well with Greg too. So be sure to go there, check out the collections. There's plenty of other wrestlers and talents we have on there, but got to give the highlight to the boss and to the facilitator, Greg Gagne. So appreciate everybody tuning in. As far as anything else goes, be sure to follow Magnum on Instagram at Magnum_TA. You can also follow him on X at The Real Magnum TA. You can follow me on Twitter at Dominic DeAngelo, or you can follow me on Instagram too at dom.deangelo. Plus, you can follow Greg Gagne on Instagram at gagne.greg. So give everybody a follow. Be sure to like, share, subscribe to the channels, whether you're on OneTrueSportTV.com or 4HorsemanNetwork.com. And on top of that, be sure to give us 5 stars. Type 4 Horseman Network on your podcast feed of choice. You'll not only get Magnum TA and Greg Gagne, but you will get Arn Anderson. And we drop those every week too, the new episodes every week. So be sure to help and support the show in that regard too. So, hey, Magnum, this was fun. We sure miss Greg, but it's good to chop it up with you as well too, and get your insight on everything too as well. So thanks for joining me today, Magnum.
I enjoyed it, Dom, as always, and hopefully Greg will be back on top of his game next week.
Yes. So shout out to Greg. I know he'll be we'll be happy to see him back in the mix. And thanks for everybody for tuning in. Appreciate everybody chiming in, like Magna, like CG Artemis, and everybody. So thank you all, and we'll see you next time here on Straight Talk with the Boss, Magnum TA and Greg Gagne.